and Senate File 151, monthly ad valorem tax distribution amendments. Just very quickly, and since we've got pretty much all the same people in the room who are always in the room, I guess we don't need to go too deep, but everybody knows the rules of decorum, so we'll skip all that fun part.
You have to explain the decorum rules to that guy right there.
But anyway, welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming to the meeting today. We really are grateful for everyone being here. Thank you so much. And at this point, Senator Olson, you are up, sir. Oh, sorry, I skipped roll call. Most important thing. Donna, please call roll.
All right, roll call for House Revenue. Representative Brown?
Present.
Representative Campbell? Here. Representative Lean? Here. Representative Lucas?
Present.
Representative Riggins excused. Representative Storer?
Here.
Representative Stivar?
Present.
Representative Worf?
Here.
And Chairman Locke.
Present.
We have 8 present. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
I guess until the end, I should follow the script. So that's, sorry about that, everyone. Anyway, thank you. And Senator, please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's my pleasure to bring you Senate File 58. This is an elimination of sales tax on firearms. There are 2 reasons why I think this bill is important. The first, I hope you all share this vision with me, and that is that owning a firearm, whether it's for self-defense or it's for hunting or it's for sport, it doesn't matter. It's a fundamental right that is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, and it's also in the Wyoming Constitution. And so because it is a fundamental right, I believe that it should be as affordable and accessible as possible to the average Wyomingite. The second reason is that whether we like it or not, what our taxes and our tax code does is it becomes a facilitator for public policy. So what we choose to tax, what we choose not to tax, how much we tax something, how little we tax something, all of that is a reflection of our public policy, our beliefs, our morals, our values, what we hold dear, what we believe is sacred, etc. So for that reason, I think because we can all agree that the Second Amendment and the Wyoming Constitution, Article 1, Section 24, are fundamentally valuable to every Wyomingite, that our tax code ought to reflect that. So, Mr. Chairman, let me walk you through the bill. It's really very simple. We go on page 1, section 1, into the taxation and revenue code, which is Title 39, which I'm sure this committee is very familiar with. And there are a list of exemptions from excise tax. And it says that for the purpose of exempting sales of services and tangible personal property as an economic incentive, the following are exempted. And then we list out sale of firearm and ammunition. Now, ammunition and firearm are defined by Crimes and Offenses Title 6. And so if you turn over your bill, you're on to page 3. There's a definition of ammunition and firearm defined in the criminal code. And ammunition means any projectile expelled by an action of an explosive, from a firearm, and it does not include a projectile designed to pierce armor. I believe there was an amendment, now that I think about it, on the House side that brought in that broadened that so that it does include arrows. And then the firearm definition is any weapon which will or is designed to expel a projectile by the action of an explosion, not rockets, grenade launchers, etc. But the definition was broadened, I believe. You have a blue version of the bill?
We do.
Yeah. To bring in the definition of a crossbow or a bow and arrow. And then this act is effective on July 1st, 2025. So a couple of things to consider, Mr. Chairman. There is a federal excise tax that occurs when you purchase a firearm and ammunition. In Wyoming, the only tax that is applied is a sales tax. We don't have a special excise tax for firearms and ammunitions. Thankfully, that would be the policy going in the complete wrong direction. Something else to consider, that no state has actually eliminated a sales tax on firearms. So we would be the first in the nation, which I think is something to be proud of. Some states have put in place like tax holidays, for example, where there'll be a period of time where they're trying to spur economic activity and spur purchasing of firearms and ammunition. So they'll do a tax break for a period of time, but then the tax goes back into place. Obviously, this bill would be a permanent exemption of the sales tax. Lastly, I will say, because this is probably going to come up in your questioning, it did on the Senate side. When you look at the fiscal note, there's no impact. And the Department of Revenue's here, and they'll be able to testify to that and explain it probably better than I will. But we don't currently track sales of firearms. So there's no way to know how many firearms are sold in Wyoming to know what the tax break would do to the revenue. And the reason why we don't know that is because sales are aggregated. So if you think of your typical sporting goods store, what happens is you report all of your taxable goods, which could include firearms, ammunition, tents, coolers, whatever it may be, clothing, and then you remit a sales tax based on that aggregate amount. And then what will happen under this bill is you will identify how much you have, so $50,000 in taxable goods, and then you'll identify how much you have in non-taxable goods, so maybe $20,000 as an example. But that's not necessarily just firearms and ammunitions. If you're running a sporting goods store and you're selling any prepared goods like jerky, for example, that's part of a non-taxable good, and it's aggregated in there with firearms and ammunition. So in case you were gonna ask me how much is this going to cost, there's a reason why the fiscal note doesn't tell us. It's because we really can't calculate it, but you can obviously have that conversation with the Department of Revenue as well. And Mr. Chairman, I will take any questions on the bill.
Thank you, Senator. Questions for Senator Olson? Yes, Representative Worf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good Senator, are you aware of Pittman Robertson, Dingell Johnson dollars, federal excise taxes that are already built into the purchase of these products?
Senator, please.
Yeah, I believe that's, when I discussed earlier that there's a federal excise tax, that's what I was talking about. I think it's like 10 or 11%. And nothing changes with that taxation, and I know there's a portion of kickback that comes back to the state, which is probably your follow-up question, and nothing changes with that.
Yeah,
This bill.
Mr. Chairman, that was my concern. I wondered if that would have an impact, because we do, the Game and Fish Department gets around $20 million a year in Pittman Robertson, Dingell Johnson dollars, and that does include taxes on fishing stuff as well, because Dingell Johnson's where they picked up the archery equipment and the fishing stuff. So Pittman Robertson is just your rifles or your firearms ammunition. But you say it has no impact on that then?
And Mr. Chairman, Representative Worf, yeah, that's all federal taxation, and none of it is touched by this bill.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions for Senator Olson? Representative Worf.
And I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask the question or not. It might be better to ask it of our Director of Revenue, but are you concerned that this might create an avenue for people to track who's purchasing firearms and ammunition?
Senator, please.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Worf, that's a good question that I also received on the Senate side, and the Department of Revenue can definitely expound upon that. But in the example that I was giving of aggregated versus non-aggregated, the other intent to explain that is to help calm that fear. I don't think that is a possibility, because we don't currently do that, and there's no reason for us to do it under this system. You simply aggregate all sales that are taxable. You aggregate all sales that are non-taxable. So if it was a shop that only sells firearms, there's gonna be a total volume of sales that took place, but you're not going to report to the Department of Revenue every individual firearm that's sold. And I think the department would testify as well that they don't want that. They just want the aggregated number.
Thank you. Representative Storer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Olson, for being here. What is the reason for this bill?
Senator, please.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Storr, so like I said in my opening, firearm it's a fundamental right as an American and as a Wyomingite to own a firearm. I think that because it is a fundamental right, it should be as accessible and affordable as possible. The other reason that I gave is that I believe that our tax code reflects our morals, our values, our principles, what we hold dear, what we believe is sacred, et cetera. And so by eliminating the sales tax on firearms, we're very strongly saying we believe in our Second Amendment. Something that could be ancillary that I believe is a reality is for example, when manufacturers of firearms are looking at states to relocate, I do think that states that are the most friendly towards not the Second Amendment, but towards firearms in general, I think will factor into their consideration. So there could be some benefits like that as well.
Representative Storer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a follow-up to that idea. So, I mean, if they're manufacturing a firearm here and selling it as a wholesaler, they're not paying tax on that anyway, right? Selling it to a retailer.
Senator Olson.
The manufacturer is not, no.
Right. So, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
so
Representative Storer.
again, they'll be selling both in the state and out of the state.
Yeah.
And in the state with such a low population, why, I mean, that's not much of an incentive.
Senator.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Storer, like I said, that's just an ancillary. It's not the main reason for the bill. I just think there's a possibility that could spur activity. The main reason is to put forward our values and our principles in our tax code.
Other questions for Senator Olson? Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming today, Senator. You spoke about Title 39 and the excise tax and the list of things that are not currently taxed. And I'm wondering if this should also be an interim topic so that we can quit piecemealing together our tax code, or if we should continue to do that one at a time. And I was wondering your thoughts on that.
Senator, please.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lean, well, I would like for you to pass my bill. So, but I do actually agree with you that I think that would be a perfect topic for this committee to take up, is that we're either, in my mind, there's a lot of things that shouldn't be taxed if we're talking about what our values and our principles are, what we should put in the code. But yeah, when we piecemeal it together, it's probably not the best approach, but a holistic approach to what should be taxed and what should not be taxed would be a fine endeavor by this committee. But of course, I didn't bring a bill with all kinds of tax exemptions. I just thought of the one that was most important to me.
Thank you. Follow up? Okay. Other questions for the senator? Sir, thank you so much for coming, and I'm sure you won't leave too quickly, but thank you for being here, Senator. Any discussion from the department? So, okay, so it sounds like they're comfortable with that. Anybody else to speak on this bill?
Move the bill.
Okay. So do we want to, you want to speak before we?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. I asked about the possibility of tracking the purchase of firearms, and I would appreciate hearing from the department, because I do think that's an important, it's a concern that's been expressed, and I would like to hear your response to that, please.
Department, if you wouldn't mind responding to that question, that'd be great. And thank you for being here, by the way. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Fanning. I know you know this stuff at a level of depth that most of us, would scare most of us, but thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I truly appreciate the comment. Members of the committee, Brett Fanning, I'm the Excise Tax Administrator at the Wyoming Department of Revenue. And Mr. Chairman, Representative Worf, Senator Olson outlined it perfectly. We just get aggregated data that comes in on our returns. So when a vendor, a sporting goods store files with us, it is just aggregated data. That's one piece to consider. The also piece to consider is that when we get the aggregated returns to us, it's not line item detailed. As the senator mentioned, if they sell untaxed goods, jerky was a really good example, gift cards are a really good example. We just get one lump sum amount. Then what's also important to note too is that that is confidential information as well. So when we get taxpayer reported returns, maybe the department has some sort of questions, we don't get names of firearm purchasers. We don't get names of people who buy untaxed food at the grocery store. We don't get untaxed fill in the blank exemption. So yes, the department would not have any way to track who is purchasing firearms in the state of Wyoming.
Great. Other questions for Mr. Fanning? Thank you. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to here to speak on this bill? All right, and we have no one online for this bill that I saw. Okay? Great. So we'll close public comment.
Move the bill.
All right. It has been, bill has been moved. Is there a second? All right. Moved by Vice Chair Stivar and seconded by Representative Lucas. All right. Are there, let's talk. Are there any amendments to the bill?
Good job.
Any amendments? Okay. Seeing no amendments, it's fairly short, so we won't do too much page by page. So, discussion on the bill. Representative Worf.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and this is hard for me because you guys know I'm a sportsman. I love to shoot, love to do all this stuff, but I decided at the start of this session, I was not going to do any piecemeal stuff. And so I apologize to the good bringer of the bill. I think it's something I definitely want to look at, but I feel a little conflicted because this is one that really benefits me. And I look at all the other exemptions that I voted against, and I feel like I need to vote against this one just on that same principle, that I think we need to look at the collective process rather than piecemeal and stuff. So that is why I'm going to vote against the bill. But I think it's a great bill. I think we need to, I would like to look at it during the interim.
Other discussions? Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of concerns with this bill. One of them is what Representative Worf has just said. Also, we're looking at in the state here to pass a bill that says you can't track sales of guns. And I just feel that this is a way for them to have a back door to track gun sales. And so for that reason, I'm going to vote no.
Other discussions? Representative Stivar.
I'm going to be an aye vote. And the reason why is looking at the fiscal note on it, but we also at the same time need to look at all 14 exemptions. That needs to be an interim topic. This will be one of the exemptions we look at again. I think we just need to go ahead and get it out on the floor and see where it lands from there. But I think it's a good concept, it's a good idea. It'll give everybody something to think about going down the road. So I'm an aye on it.
Other discussions on the bill? Seeing none and with no amendments, hang on. Kevin?
No, I just
Representative
wanted,
Campbell, sorry.
I wanted to follow up, Mr. Chairman. I do think that this is we have so many piecemeal things out there right now that, I think I'm gonna be a no on this. I support, I support everything it's trying to do, but we've got so many different things. I do think this ought to be an interim topic that we ought to move forward with on that.
Other discussion, Representative Storr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too am concerned about the fact that we are creating a lot of other sales tax and property tax reductions. And, there is a whole slew of exemptions on sales and use tax that, and it feels like this bill is going in the wrong direction. That just adding another one to the pages and pages of exemptions that we have. So as we think about what's happening with revenues from minerals that are such a huge amount that we count on, and doing these other reductions as well. I think it's just, again, as you all know, I brought a bill to kind of create a task force, or I'm glad if this committee wants to take that on instead, that we think about how to look at our tax policy holistically and really take a deep dive before going in this direction. Thank you.
Other discussion? Seeing none. Donna, if you would please take the roll on this bill. This is Senate File 58, elimination of sales tax on firearms.
Okay, roll call vote on Senate File 58. Representative Brown,
No.
Representative Campbell,
No.
Representative Lean,
Aye.
Representative Lucas,
Aye.
Representative Riggins excused, Representative Storer,
No.
Representative Stivard,
Aye.
Representative Worf,
No.
Chairman Locke.
No.
We have 3 aye, 5 no, and 1 excused, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you so much. And let me just say one thing. On this bill, I think we're all, I think the biggest issue for us here at this board, or this committee, I do think this interim conversation was one we've been talking about for some time, just to try to make sure we can get our arms around exemptions and everything. And, but I really appreciate you bringing the bill. Thank you. All right, we are going to, and I apologize to everyone in the room, we're going to take just a few minutes. I know Senator Jones was presenting 2 bills this morning. I think she's presenting a bill in TRW right now. We're going to be a little patient and give her a few moments to get here for this next bill. And we have someone online for this bill, I believe, right? So let's, again, I'm sorry, please be patient, and we'll work our way, or we'll give her some time to get over here to the meeting. Yes, we are. Okay. Committee, we are back on it here. So, Senator, thank you so much. And we tried to be very patient. We knew you were very busy this morning, so thank you for coming to the House Revenue Committee. We really appreciate it. And you may, we are on Senate File 151, monthly ad valorem tax distribution amendments, and please proceed when you are ready. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I apologize for having two bills at the same time. Stacy Jones, Senate District 13. This little bill is to help out our county treasurers. It's just, it's a pretty simple bill, actually. I'll just explain it a little bit. Starting in January of each year, the monthly mineral estimate payments are made and distributed with the previous year's mill. The actual mill that some entities should receive isn't applied until the true-up happens in September. If an entity lowers its mill or has satisfied a bond and no longer has a mill, they actually continue to keep receiving the previous year's mill and until the true-up. I'm sorry, I hope my voice hangs in here. Receiving funds that are not due to them. So then that requires them to hold on to those funds and return them back to the county. So to alleviate these back and forth payments, the county treasurers can keep those estimate payments in escrow and then refund them to the producer once the true-up has occurred. So it's kind of just a little cleanup bill. It just allows the treasurer to not distribute funds to entities who aren't due them. And then that way, the county, those little entities don't have to hold on to them, keep track of them, and then return them again. So, and I do think our county treasurer registered too. This is a bill to help out most of the treasurers.
Thank you. Is there any questions for the senator on this one? So quick question, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So this is a procedure, this monthly, I was looking at deeper at the statute. So this is a situation where a person no longer should be receiving those funds. So this is literally a back and forth that happens just because the statute gives them these hard deadlines. So this is just modifying that so the county treasurer holds it.
Mr. Chairman,
all it's
exactly.
doing.
Yes, so let's say a bond is satisfied January 15th, then they still keep receiving those payments all the way through September, and then they have to pay back that gap. So it's just a little cleanup thing so that they can hold on to the funds and they don't have to ask for them back.
Great. Any other questions for the senator? Now, we can bring online, I'm sorry, Mark Cohen? Is
Yes.
that correct?
Cowan, yes.
If you could bring Mr. Cohen on, that would be great. Thank you. Mr. Cohen, thank you for being here at House Revenue, and please introduce yourself, and you can speak on Senate File 151, please, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate this time to testify on this bill. Mark Cowan, Sweetwater County Treasurer. This is a bill that I asked the good senator to bring because it's actually an issue that we faced this year with one of our entities that will pay their bond off, and then they're going to gather about $300,000 worth of additional payments that they will have to return in September. And obviously, this is a concern for us and for them. If their treasurer changes or they have issues over there and they spend the money, then we have to go back and try and claw that money back from them. So this just gives us an avenue to protect those funds for the producer and get those funds back to the producer when we do that true up in the fall. I'll stand for any questions for you.
Any questions for Mr. Cowan? Mr. Cowan, my quick question, have you discussed this with other treasurers across the state? Do you have a good feel for where others stand? I'm just trying to find out if this is a very isolated case, if this is a broad concern. I'd just like to get your feel for that, sir.
Yeah, the association met and talked about this. The association agrees that this is a bill that we need to have to fix this issue. Of course, not all communities have mineral production, and this really does affect those of us who have mineral production, as that monthly ad valorem mineral payment is paid out. So,
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Cohen? Thank you so much for that clarification. I just wanted to make sure that you had it had been walked through the broader group of folks. Not that I think it's all that complicated, but I just wanted to make sure we understood it very well. Thank you so much. Thank you for being online, and I really do appreciate you being here for the House Revenue meeting and supporting us here.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify, Chairman.
You bet. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Anyone else to speak on this bill? Wow, this is way too easy of a day. We do not know what this feels like right now. No, that was perfect. We were all very prepared for you, let's say. But any other questions, committee? In that case, since we have no one else testifying and you're going easy on us. Oh, sorry. See that? Representative Lucas, I'm skipping over everyone here. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look at me once in a while. No. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Senator Jones, so I'm understanding this is primarily minerals, so we're not talking Joe College, your next door neighbor is missing out on money he needs and will have to figure out a way to pay it back because he spent it on his mortgage. It's not really affecting persons, but rather business entities.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator.
Representative, you're exactly right. I mean, this is communities that have done like a bond initiative to build a senior center or something like that. It's for communities, not actual individuals.
That's how I read it. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, any other? Oh, Representative Storr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Jones, for being here and bringing this bill. I know we went from annual payments to these monthly payments, a couple of years ago, right? I'm still just trying to understand why we can't anticipate this and why the funds do get paid in advance and that they don't know that the bond, just maybe help me understand the mechanics so I understand the reason for the bill.
Senator, please.
Mr. Chairman, so in September of every year is when these payments all stop. So if somebody's wasn't due it somewhere in those months in between there, they still get them. So I'm not sure there's a loophole in there. So that's what we're trying to close, this little loophole, so that people who aren't actually due these monies aren't given them.
So. Maybe a little more explanation. Sounds good. So again, I'm going to ask the question. I'm sorry, I'm a little thick, but like you were saying, so the bond, the 1% or the 1 mil bond or something ended in May. Or no, what's the other date? It's in between two dates specifically. Anyway, I'll let you explain it better. Sorry, please.
Mr.
Director.
Chairman, Brenda Henson, Director of the Department of Revenue. So ad valorem taxes, property taxes on mineral production is unique in Wyoming. And this is the outcome of years of interim work. And then the legislature deemed it appropriate that we take the prior system. And what the prior system was, let's say mineral production that occurred in 2023. We value that at the Department of Revenue, the Mineral Tax Division, and we certify those values to the county assessor no later than June of 2024. And then there's an entire budget process that's going through where all of your taxing entities are having budget meetings, proposed budgets, final budgets. And the mill levies for 2024 tax year are actually established no later than the first Monday in August, and tax bills are sent out in September of 2024 on 2023 production. That's the way we used to tax minerals. Now what happens is that entire process is in place, but in addition, what happens is we use severance tax reports from producers, and on they're required to report on the 25th of the month of the second month following the month of production. What we do then, based on the statutory direction, is we use that number and we apply a prior year mill levy, because that is all that's known. When you do January of 2025 production, We don't know what the mill levy is going to be in September. All we know is the prior year's mill levy. So we use the prior year mill levy, apply that to the value, send the producer an invoice, and they send the Department of Revenue an estimated tax amount no later than the 25th of the third month following the month of production. We then are required to send those monies to every county treasurer, and then they're required to distribute them to all the taxing entities based on that prior year mill levy. It is not until we certify values in June of the year following the year of production, and then the mill levies are set, that the county treasurers can actually then not only reconcile to the taxing entities, but reconcile to that taxpayer, right? So they've got to say, okay, we gave school district number one X dollars based on an estimated tax amount. Now that we know the actual mill levy, this is what that tax bill should have been. Now, if it's a refund to the producer, they have to claw that money back from the school district. If it is an additional mill levy, let's say it's a new taxing entity that didn't even exist the prior year, now they've got to get that money and bill that producer for that actual tax amount. But that's why that September time period. It all works really well, but for the situation that has been identified on these bond repayments, you could have a situation where we're collecting 2 mills on a bond that county treasurer knows, because they know what's left on the principal and interest. They know that they need to just hold on to that, because that amount's probably going to be refunded back to the producer. And that way, it's not as confusing. And so we're not talking about changing anything for all the entities. It's just maybe that one entity that has a bond payment that the county treasurer knows is going to be different. So hopefully that helps in that discussion.
Representative Campbell.
I'm pretty simple here, so clarify with me. All we're doing is we get a bunch of peaks and valleys. We're taking those peaks and valleys out and pretty much smoothing everything out.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Campbell, no. What this change in Wyoming statute did was get an estimated tax amount that those producers needed to pay closer to the time when it was actually severed. They've severed that mineral, let's say January of 2025. They're going to have to report to us the second month following the month of production, and then they're going to pay us an estimated tax the third month following the month of production. Historically, that January production would have never even received a tax bill until September of the following year, 18 months from when that mineral was produced.
Hold on, I understand with that. I'm saying with this bill, this just gives the treasurer's office basically the ability to they don't have to do these draconian extremes, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, no, Representative Campbell. This
Okay,
is
I'm missing
just
here.
simply giving the county treasurer the opportunity in the situation where the taxing entity that levied a higher mill levy the prior year, because that's what our estimated tax was based on, it allows the treasurer to take those funds that we send to them and hold on to them, because they know that the following year, that bond mill levy is not going to be as high.
Okay.
It's really only in those situations. Other than that, those are going to be distributed out to the taxing entities.
Any other questions for the director? And just real quick, the only person who knows the current state of those bonds is the county treasurer. That's the point. We're stopping it at the closest point we can stop the transactions is roughly what we're trying to do.
Mr. Chairman,
Director?
that's an accurate statement, and the county treasurers work very closely with those taxing authorities that still have that debt repayment.
Thank you. Please, okay. Great, thank you. Now that additional clarification, I apologize for so many questions, but thank you for the additional clarification. Other questions from the committee? All right. Well then, in that case, anyone else want to speak on this? Come on, this is your chance. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, in that case, we will close public testimony. And the committee, what's your pleasure with the bill? Okay, Representative Lucas moves the bill. All right, seconded by Representative Storer. All right, any amendments, which I'm thinking, seeing none, how about further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, please call roll on Senate File 151, monthly ad valorem tax distribution amendments.
Roll call on Senate File 151, Representative Brown,
Aye.
Representative Campbell,
Aye.
Representative Lean,
Aye.
Representative Lucas.
Aye.
Representative Riggins excused, Representative Storer,
Aye.
Representative Stivar,
Aye.
Representative Worf,
Aye.
Chairman Locke.
Aye.
We have 8 aye and 1 excused, Mr. Chairman.
So Senate File 151 has passed, and Senator, thank you so much for coming and presenting the bill. And is there anyone, sorry, did I?
No.
Oh,
I'm just volunteering her
oh,
to present the bill.
no. If there's,
I'm lost.
committee, is there any other business for the committee here today? Because I think we've got the people who are presenting the bill from the Senate side will probably talk to the person who they want to present as we move to the floor, so we'll let them move that. Anything else, any other business for the committee? Very good, then we will adjourn, and for everyone who came, thank